The Union Academy
Status
dropped
report on
40
the
cadets
anomaly.
on Kelmar
Volcanic
3,
activity spiking.
a Class
Deploying
3
drones.
death world
Acknowledge.
where
All teams,
98%
brace for
of known
impact.
sapient species die within 48 hours. The mission was simple. Survive 72 hours, reach extraction 80 kilometers away, through hostile terrain, unpredictable storms, and predators that hunted anything with a heartbeat. Expected casualties, 60%. Expected survival time for the human squad leader, 12 hours. The human called it basically spring break. He finished in 71 hours and 34 minutes. This is how one mechanic's son from Montana rewrote Union survival doctrine. The assembly hall on Union Academy Station Prime could hold 3,000 cadets. Today it held 240, the final evaluation candidates. The ones who had survived 4 years of training, countless simulations, and the brutal attrition rate that claimed 40% of admitted students before graduation. Commander Vraxis stood at the podium, all 7 of his eye stalks focused on the holographic display behind him. He was Hexian, slug-like body tentacle manipulators, and a voice that resonated with the kind of authority that came from 3 decades of military service. The hologram rotated slowly. A planet, green continents, blue oceans, white clouds that looked deceptively peaceful from orbit. Kelmar 3. Attention cadets, Vraxis's voice cut through the murmur of nervous conversation. You have trained for this moment for 4 standard years. You have studied tactics, xenobiology, survival protocols, and interspecies cooperation. You have passed every examination, exceeded every simulation benchmark. He paused, let the silence stretch. None of that matters if you cannot survive 72 hours on a real death world. The hologram zoomed in, forest, dense, dark, alive with movement, even from orbital view. Kelmar 3 is classified as a Class 3 death world. For context, 98% of Union species cannot survive unassisted on anything above Class 2. The atmospheric pressure will make your organs feel compressed. The local fauna considers everything food, especially other local fauna. The storms generate winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour and have been observed throwing boulders the size of transit pods. A cadet near the front made a sound, somewhere between a whimper and a prayer. Vraxis's eye stalks swiveled toward the sound, then back to the display. You will be divided into teams of 4. Each team will be dropped in a separate zone. Your objective is straightforward. Survive 72 hours and reach the extraction point at coordinates transmitted to your squad leader's datapad. The extraction point is approximately 80 kilometers from your drop zone. You will traverse this distance on foot through hostile terrain. The hologram shifted, showed teeth, claws, things with too many legs and not enough regard for the sanctity of life. You will be provided with standard survival equipment. 1 medical kit, 1 emergency beacon for genuine life-threatening situations only, 1 water filtration unit, 1 protein synthesizer. And your training, I suggest you rely heavily on the latter. Vraxis's primary manipulator tapped the podium. Team assignments are now displayed on your datapads. You have 30 minutes to meet your team and board your designated dropship. Dismissed. The hall erupted, not with conversation, with the sound of 240 cadets checking their assignments and confronting their mortality. Cade Harlow sat in the back row, 3rd seat from the left, eating teriyaki-flavored protein jerky from a crinkled foil packet. He was 23 standard years old, which translated to about 23 Earth years, because humans had stubbornly refused to adopt Union chronological standards when they joined the galactic community. He had dark hair that hadn't seen a proper cut in 3 months, brown eyes that looked perpetually amused by something nobody else found funny, and the kind of weathered hands that came from growing up fixing machinery in his father's garage in Montana. His academy jumpsuit was regulation. Mostly. He'd torn the sleeves off because Union climate control ran hot for human comfort, and he'd stitched a patch over the left knee where he'd ripped it during a training exercise involving zero-gravity combat and poor decision-making. He chewed his jerky and pulled up his datapad. Team 7, Squad Leader Cade Harlow, species human. He blinked, read it again. Squad Leader, first human squad leader in Union Academy history. Well, that was either a sign of progressive attitudes or someone setting him up to fail spectacularly for political reasons. He scrolled down. Team members Lease species Florian, Torvin species Krytoyan, Vale species Zenthari. Cade knew the species profiles, had memorized them during his first year. Florians were amphibious bioluminescent and came from a Class 1 garden world where the most dangerous predator was apparently a fruit that caused mild indigestion. Krytoyans were rock-based life forms from high-gravity worlds, incredibly strong but slow to react. Xantharists were scaled sophisticated and had a cultural superiority complex that made old Earth aristocrats look humble. This was going to be interesting. He stood pocketed his jerky and made his way through the crowd toward the designated hangar bay. The hangar bay smelled like coolant and recycled air, and the particular kind of anxiety that preceded potentially lethal field exercises. Drop ships lined the massive space, each one marked with a team number and destination coordinates. Cade found Team 7's assigned ship and spotted his teammates immediately. Liss was easy to identify. Translucent skin with bioluminescent patches that currently flickered yellow-orange in patterns that Cade's xenobiology training translated as profound distress. She was small, maybe 4 feet tall, with large eyes and delicate limbs that looked like they'd snap if someone breathed on them too hard. Torvin stood next to her. Twice her height, body covered in rock-like plating that ranged from granite gray to obsidian black. His chest piece was thick, reinforced, and currently unmarred. That wouldn't last. Vale stood apart from both of them. Scaled skin in deep emerald with gold accents that probably cost a small fortune in genetic modification. He held himself with the kind of rigid posture that screamed military family and high expectations. Cade approached, raised one hand in the universal gesture of greeting that worked across about 70% of Union species. "Hey, I'm Cade, squad leader." Vale's vertical pupils contracted. His scaled head turned with deliberate slowness. "You." The word came out flat, skeptical. "The human. Last time I checked, yeah. I will not follow a primitive to my death on a death world." Vale's voice carried that particular upper-class accent that suggested private tutors and family disappointment. "I formally request reassignment." Liss's bioluminescent patches flickered faster, distress intensifying. Torvin rumbled something in his native language, then switched to common standard. "The assignments are final. Commander Vraxis does not accept requests based on species prejudice." "This is not prejudice. This is statistical reality." Vale gestured at Cade with one scaled hand. "Humans have been in space for 3 decades. 3. My species has been navigating the stars for 12,000 years. He is from a world that only achieved faster-than-light travel in his lifetime, and we are expected to trust his leadership on a Class 3 death world." Cade let him finish, waited through the silence that followed. Then he smiled. "You done?" Vale's scales rippled, a Xanthari expression of offense. "Because if you are, we should probably talk about the mission instead of my species' technological development timeline. We've got—" Cade checked his datapad 23 minutes before boarding. Liss made a small sound. Her patches shifted to pale blue. Cade's training translated it as cautious hope. "You are not concerned about the mortality statistics." Her voice was soft, musical, the kind of voice that belonged to someone who'd never had to yell to be heard. "Concerned, sure. Paralyzed by fear now." Cade pulled up the mission data on his datapad. Class 3 Death World. Atmospheric pressure, hostile fauna, unpredictable weather patterns. 72 hours, 80 clicks to extraction. He looked up, met each of their eyes in turn. "It's gonna be rough, but it's doable." Doable. Vale's tone could have frozen methane. "The mortality rate for non-adapted species on Kelmar 3 exceeds 60%. "Yeah, but that's not us, right? We're academy trained. We've got skills. We've got each other." Cade glanced at the dropship behind them. "And honestly, Class 3 is basically spring break compared to where I grew up." Silence. Liss's patches cycled through 3 colors before settling on confused pink. Torvin's rocky brow plates furrowed. "What is spring break?" "Human cultural tradition where they travel to dangerous locations and engage in risky behavior for recreation." Vale supplied, then turned to Cade with something approaching horror. "You are comparing a death world evaluation to a recreational activity." Cade shrugged. "I mean, yeah. Earth is Class 7. Montana in January, that'll kill you 6 ways before breakfast if you're not careful. Kelmar 3 is like—" He searched for the right comparison. "It's like camping with slightly bigger wildlife." "Slightly bigger," Liss repeated faintly. "You will get us killed," Vale announced. "Your species' disturbing comfort with lethality will result in poor risk assessment and tactical failures." "Maybe," Cade folded his arms. "Or maybe growing up on the 3rd most dangerous planet in known space means I've got skills you don't. Guess we'll find out." Torvin made a sound like grinding stone. Cade's datapad helpfully translated it as thoughtful consideration. "The human makes a valid point. Death world adaptation may provide advantages we lack. I vote we proceed with assigned team structure." Vale opened his mouth, closed it, His scales rippled in a pattern Cade didn't recognize but suspected meant profound frustration. Fine. But when you fail, human, I will ensure the Academy records reflect that your inadequacy endangered the entire team. Fair enough. Cade extended his hand, waited. Vale stared at the offered hand like it might bite him. Human gesture of agreement, Cade explained. You grasp my hand, shake it, seals the deal. After a long moment, Vale reached out. His scaled hand gripped Cade's with surprising warmth. Do not make me regret this. I'll do my best. The dropship was exactly as uncomfortable as Cade had expected. Crash harnesses designed for multiple body types, which meant they fit nobody perfectly. The interior smelled like hydraulic fluid and fierce sweat from previous teams. The pilot was Avix, feathered vaguely avian and profoundly bored by the whole proceeding. She ran through pre-flight checks with the enthusiasm of someone reading appliance instructions. Cade strapped into his harness, checked the seals, and pulled up the mission data one more time. Zone 7. Temperate forest region. Current environmental scans showed moderate rainfall temperatures ranging from 15 to 30 degrees Celsius and confirmed presence of multiple predator species, including Kalmar stalkers, six-legged ambush predators, 400 kilograms average weight, razor-sharp crystalline formations growing from their spines that they could launch as projectile. Pack hunters with sophisticated coordination. Basically mountain lions with extra legs and the ability to shoot you. Cade had grown up in Montana, had encountered actual mountain lions twice. Once while hiking with his father when he was 12, once while camping alone when he was 17. The trick was understanding that they were ambush hunters. They wanted you scared, wanted you running. The moment you ran, you were prey. The moment you stood your ground and made yourself a problem, you stopped being an easy meal. So what's the plan? Liz asked from her harness. Her patches glowed soft green. Cade's datapad translated it as a tempting optimism. Survive 72 hours, reach extraction. Cade kept his tone light. Everything else is just details. Those details include predators that can shoot projectiles, Vale pointed out. Environmental hazards, potential equipment failure, team coordination challenges with an inexperienced human leader. You always this cheerful. I prefer the term realistic. I prefer the term pessimistic. But hey, different strokes. Torvin's rumbling voice cut through their exchange. What is the tactical approach? Do we establish a defensive position and wait for extraction, or do we attempt to reach the coordinates early? Good question. Strategic thinking. Cade liked that. We vote, he said. Democracy. Everyone gets a say. Vale's scales rippled surprise. You are squad leader. The decision is yours. Yeah, and I'm deciding we vote. Defensive camp versus active advance. Liz, her patches flickered. I vote for defensive position. Minimize risk. Torvin, advance. The Krytoian's voice resonated with certainty. Stationary prey dies first on my world. Movement provides tactical flexibility. Vale silence. Then advance, though I question the wisdom of democratic tactical decisions under combat conditions. Noted. Cade grinned. I vote advance too, motion carries. We move toward extraction, careful but steady. Cover distance early gives us buffer if something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, Vale corrected. Optimism. Vale, try it sometime. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Approaching drop zone, prepare for deployment in 60 seconds. Cade's stomach did something complicated. Not fear, not exactly. More like anticipation mixed with adrenaline and the kind of focused awareness that came before big moments. Liz made a sound like a small animal facing a large predator. Torvin gripped his harness restraints until the metal groaned. Vale's breathing accelerated, controlled but audible, and Cade checked his bootlaces one more time and smiled. 10 seconds, the pilot announced. The floor disappeared. That was the only way to describe it. One moment they were in a ship. The next they were falling through atmosphere at speeds that made every survival instinct Cade possessed scream in protest. The drop pods deployed, metal and composite material wrapping around each of them, creating protective shells that plummeted toward the planet below. Through the transparent section of his pod, Cade could see Kelmar 3 rushing up to meet them. Green and blue and brown forests and rivers and mountains that looked beautiful, right up until you remembered everything down there wanted to eat you. This is awesome. The words came out before he could stop them. Pure adrenaline and joy and the kind of reckless enthusiasm that had gotten him in trouble his entire life. We are going to Liz's voice over the comm system high and panicked. Statistically unlikely, Torvin rumbled, though he sounded uncertain. The pods deployed retro thrusters. Deceleration hit like a physical blow. Cade's vision grayed at the edges, then snapped back as the thrusters adjusted. They hit the ground hard enough to make his teeth click together. For a long moment, everything was quiet except for the sound of his own breathing and the pod's cooling system hissing steam. Then the pod opened. The smell hit him first. Organic, wet, alive. Earth smelled like this. Montana forest after rain when everything was growing and hunting and dying and being born all at the same time. The smell of a planet that didn't care about you, didn't hate you, didn't even notice you except as another potential meal or competitor. Cade unbuckled his harness and stepped out into the death world. The forest was dense. Trees stretched up toward a canopy so thick only scattered beams of sunlight made it through, creating this twilight effect even though it was midday. Everything was some shade of green or brown. Vegetation covered every surface fighting for space and resources in a constant biological war. It was humid, very humid. Moisture condensed on Cade's skin within seconds. It was beautiful. Okay, Cade said to the forest, to his team, to himself. Now this is what I'm talking about. Smells like home. Liz emerged from her pod patches, flickering orange-red alarm colors. This smells like death. Same thing where I'm from. Torvin stepped out, his massive frame making the ground vibrate slightly. He looked around with slow, deliberate movements. Atmospheric pressure is acceptable. Gravity is 0.98 standard. Manageable. Vale was the last to emerge. His scales had shifted to a darker shade. What Cade's training suggested was a stress response. This is a Class 3 death world. Nothing about this is manageable. Not with that attitude. Cade moved to the supply crate that had dropped with them. Everyone check your gear. We need to inventory what we've got and figure out our route. The supplies were exactly as promised. One medical kit with basic trauma supplies and species-specific medications. One emergency beacon that would summon immediate extraction at the cost of automatic mission failure. One water filtration unit. One protein synthesizer that could turn local organic matter into edible nutrients, theoretically. And one multi-purpose blade. One blade for 4 people on a death world. Cade picked up a fallen branch, thick as his arm, tested its weight, then snapped it over his knee with a crack that echoed through the forest. Liz jumped. Vale stared. Torvin's eye equivalence widened slightly. What are you doing? Vale demanded. Cade held up the makeshift club. Making a backup weapon. Tools break, skills don't. You broke a tree branch with your bare hands. Humans have pretty good grip strength, perks of being from a heavy gravity world. He tested the club's balance. Good weight. Solid. Would crack a skull or break a joint if he needed it to. Would he need it to? Probably. Liz was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Your planet has heavier gravity than this. Bit heavier, yeah. Earth's about 1.2 standard. You adapt. Cade pulled up his datapad, checked the coordinates. Extraction point is northeast, approximately 80 kilometers. We've got 72 hours. If we maintain roughly 27 clicks per day, we can reach it with time to spare. 27 kilometers per day through this terrain while avoiding predators, Vale said flatly. Ambitious. Achievable. Cade shouldered his pack. We move in formation. I'll take point. Torvin, you are right behind me. Use your strength to clear obstacles. List center position, safest spot. Vale, you watch our rear. Everyone stays within visual range. We don't split up for any reason. Clear, Torvin nodded. Clear. Liss's patches shifted to nervous yellow. Clear. Vale's scales rippled. You have done this before. Hiked through dangerous terrain. Yeah, led teams through it first time, but I figure the principles are the same. Stay together, stay alert, don't do anything stupid. Comforting, Cade grinned. I try. They set off northeast using the datapad's navigation system to guide them. The forest was dense, which meant slow going. Vines grabbed at their packs. Thorns caught on their equipment. Something that looked like moss but moved on its own tried to attach itself to Torvin's leg before he scraped it off with a sound like grinding stone. Cade used his makeshift club to push branches aside, clear spider webs the size of cargo nets, and occasionally whack things that scuttled away into the undergrowth before he could get a good look at them. An hour in Liz made a small sound of distress. Cade stopped immediately. What's wrong? She gestured at her legs where some kind of plant matter had wrapped around her ankles. I am stuck. The vines were thick, fibrous, and tightening as she struggled. Cade knelt, pulled out the multi-purpose blade, and cut through them with 3 quick sawing motions. They released with a wet sound and retreated into the undergrowth. Stay alert for ground cover that moves, he said. Anything that looks like it might be alive probably is. Lice knotted patches cycling through grateful pink before settling back to nervous yellow. They continued. The forest sounds were constant, calls that might have been birds or might have been something wearing bird shapes, rustling in the undergrowth that tracked their movement, the distant crack of something large moving through the trees. Vale broke the silence. How are you so calm? Kate glanced back. Who says I'm calm? You are not displaying any stress indicators. No elevated breathing, no visible tension. You are, Vale searched for the word, comfortable. I'm alert. That's different from stressed. Cade pushed aside a curtain of hanging vines. My dad used to take me camping in the Rockies when I was a kid. Used to say that fear is useful, but panic gets you killed. The forest doesn't hate you. It's just doing its thing. You're just another animal moving through it. Respect it, pay attention, don't make stupid decisions, and you'll probably be fine. Probably, Vale repeated. Nothing's guaranteed, but probably's better odds than you get in most of life. Torvin rumbled agreement. Wisdom from your father. Yep. He was a mechanic, but he grew up hunting and fishing and doing the whole survivalist thing. Taught me everything he knew. Cade's voice softened slightly. Always said the best tool you have is the one between your ears. Long as you can think, you can adapt. Long as you can adapt, you can survive. They walked in silence for a while after them. The forest grew darker as the canopy thickened. Temperature dropped a few degrees. Humidity stayed oppressive. Cade was just starting to think they might make it to nightfall without incident when he heard it. A low clicking sound. Rhythmic. Mechanical, except nothing mechanical should be making that sound here. He froze. Raised one hand in a fist. Universal signal for stop. Behind him, his team froze immediately. The clicking continued. Closer now. Cade's eyes scanned the forest ahead. At first, he saw nothing. Just trees and shadows and undergrowth. Then the shadows moved. Not shadows. Camouflage. Body covered in mottled fur that shifted colors to match its surroundings. 6 legs ending in claws that looked sharp enough to slice through armor. Head low eyes arranged in a pattern that gave it nearly 360-degree vision. Kelmar Stalker. 400 kilograms of ambush predator designed by evolution to kill anything that moved through its territory, and it had seen them. Cade's hand tightened on his club. His heart rate kicked up, but his breathing stayed controlled. Steady. Don't move, he whispered. Nobody moves. The stalker's head turned toward them. Multiple eyes fixed on Cade. The clicking sound intensified. What does the clicking mean? Lys's voice barely audible, terrified. It means there are more of them, Cade said quietly. They're pack hunters. As if to confirm his words, 2 more stalkers emerged from the undergrowth on either side. Then a 4th appeared behind them, cutting off their retreat. 4 stalkers. 4 of them. Vale made a sound that might have been a prayer in his native language. Torvin shifted his weight, preparing for combat. Lys's patches blazed pure white terror, and Cade felt something click into place in his mind. The same thing that had clicked when he was 17 and found himself face to face with a mountain lion in Wyoming. The same calm clarity that came from understanding that fear was just information and information could be used. Okay, he said, voice steady and quiet. New plan, everybody get close together. Back-to-back formation. Vale, your tallest watch overhead for attacks. Torvin, your strongest, your rear guard. Lys, stay in the middle. I've got point. They are going to kill us, Lys whispered. Not if we don't let them. Cade raised his makeshift club, settled into a fighting stance his father had drilled into him over countless camping trips. Low center of gravity, weight balanced, ready to move in any direction. The lead stalker took a step forward, then another. The clicking grew louder now, coming from all 4 of them in a coordinated pattern. Hunting communication. Pack tactics. When they charge, Cade said quietly, aim for the eyes or the joints. They've got armor everywhere else, but eyes are vulnerable and joints are weak points. Torvin, can you lift heavy? Yes. Good. When I say now, pick up that rock next to your foot and throw it at the one behind us. Doesn't matter if you hit it, just need to break their coordination. This is insane, Vale hissed. Yeah, Cade agreed, but we're doing it anyway. Ready, 3, 2, 1, now. Torvin grabbed the rock, must have weighed 50 kilograms. He hurled it like a missile. It struck the rear stalker square in the face with a crunch that echoed through the forest. The creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal, and then everything went absolutely crazy. The stalker that Torvin hit went down hard, thrashing in the undergrowth. Its packmates turned their attention toward it for exactly 1 second. That was all Cade needed. He moved, not running, moving with purpose and violence, and the kind of focused aggression that came from understanding that in a fight between predator and prey, the only winning move was to stop being prey. His club came down on the nearest stalker's foreleg joint with everything he had behind it. The crack was audible. The stalker yelped, stumbled sideways. Go, Cade shouted. Northeast, run. They ran. Here was a fun fact about adrenaline. Most species had some version of it, a chemical response to danger that temporarily enhanced physical capabilities. Humans got everything at once: speed strength, pain tolerance, and apparently the complete suppression of common sense. Cade was not running with his team. He was behind them, and he could hear himself hitting things. The club making contact with flesh and bone and crystalline growths. The stalkers clicking and snarling. The wet sound of his boots on forest floor as he moved and dodged and fought. We have to help him. Liss's voice distant now. He told us to run. Torvin's rumble, moving fast despite his bulk. Cade is correct, Vale gasped. Human combat doctrine prioritizes tactical retreat when outnumbered. He is buying us time. Cade heard all of this from somewhere behind the sound of his own pulse in his ears. He was vaguely aware that one of the stalkers had gotten close enough to launch a crystalline spike from its spine. Felt it graze his left shoulder, hot and sharp. Ignored it. Swung the club in a wide arc that connected with something that made a satisfying crunch. Then he was running too. Really running. His team was ahead, maybe 30 meters. The stalkers behind him, 3 of them now in pursuit. The 4th was still down, and the one he'd hit in the leg was limping. Pack hunters, yeah. But injured pack hunters reconsidered their target selection when the prey fought back hard enough. Keep moving, Cade shouted. Don't stop. They burst out of the dense forest into a clearing. Not exactly a clearing, more like the ground got softer, wetter. Marsh. They splashed through ankle-deep water that smelled like sulfur and decomposition. Don't stop in the water, Cade called out. We're sitting targets, Liz screamed. Cade's head snapped around in time to see something explode out of the marsh to their right. Not a stalker. Something else. Something with too many teeth arranged in concentric circles, like some kind of nightmare flower. Marsh lurker. Could grow up to 8 meters long. Swallowed prey whole. This one was maybe 6 meters. 6 meters of muscle and teeth in predatory efficiency, lunging at lice with jaws wide enough to bite her in half. Torvin was faster. His massive rocky hand grabbed the creature by what might have been its throat. Squeezed. The lurker thrashed. Its tail whipped around, caught Torvin across the chest with enough force to crack his rocky plating. The sound was like a boulder splitting. But Torvin held on and squeezed harder. The crunch was sickening. The lurker went limp. Torvin dropped it into the marsh water. Nice, Cade gasped, reaching them. But your chest, damaged but functional. Torvin's voice was strained. We must keep moving. Behind them, the 3 stalkers had stopped at the marsh edge, clicking at each other in what sounded like debate. They don't like the water, Cade realized. The lurkers hunt here. The stalkers know it. So we are safe, Liz asked hopefully. Something much larger than the lurker they just killed began to surface behind them. Cade saw a ridge of spines breaking the water, each one as tall as he was. Nope, not safe. Move. They scrambled out of the marsh on the far side, filthy and gasping. The stalkers watched from the tree line but didn't follow. Whatever was in that water, they wanted no part of it. Smart predators. Cade kept them running until the marsh was far behind, until his lungs were screaming for mercy, until even Torvin was showing signs of fatigue. Finally, he called a halt. They collapsed against trees, breathing hard. Liss's patches were flashing colors Cade had never seen before. Probably didn't have names in common standard. Probably translated roughly to, we almost died multiple times in 10 minutes, and I am reevaluating all my life choices. Torvin leaned against a massive tree trunk, chest plate visibly cracked, lubricating fluid leaking from the gaps. Vale stared at Cade with an expression that might have been respect, or might have been shock, or might have been both. And Cade looked down at his arm, noticed the blood for the first time, and shrugged. Okay, he said, breathing hard but grinning. That was fun. Liz made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been hysteria. Fun? We were almost eaten, multiple times, by multiple things. Yeah, but we weren't eaten. That's what counts. Cade examined his shoulder. The crystalline spike had grazed him, leaving a cut maybe 4 inches long. Deep enough to need treatment, not deep enough to be life-threatening. You are injured, Vale said, something like concern in his voice. I've had worse. Cade pulled his pack around, dug out the medical kit. Crashed a dirt bike into a barbed wire fence when I was 16. This is nothing. He didn't mention that his hands were shaking slightly, that his heart was still hammering in his chest, that somewhere in the back of his mind, a part of him was screaming about what they just survived and how close it had been. But his father's voice was louder, clear and steady in his memory. Fear is information. Panic is death. Stay calm. Assess the situation. Take care of what needs taking care of. So Cade cleaned the wound with the antiseptic gel that burned like fire-applied wound sealant that stung even worse, and wrapped a pressure bandage around his shoulder with practiced efficiency. Liz watched with wide eyes. Your pain tolerance is disturbing. Endorphins, also shock. I'll probably feel this tomorrow and regret everything. Cade packed the medical supplies away. But for now we're alive, we've covered maybe 5 clicks, and we learned something important. What? Torvin rumbled. This planet is exactly as advertised. Everything wants to kill us. But Cade looked at each of them. We're still here. We fought, we ran, we survived. That's 1-0 in our favor. Vale's scales rippled. After a moment, he made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are insane. Probably, but we're doing pretty well for our first day. They rested for 10 minutes. Shared water from the filtration unit. Let their hearts slow down to something approaching normal. Then Cade stood, tested his injured arm, and picked up his club. Ready to keep going. Liz's patches had shifted to pale blue. Determination. Torvin pushed himself away from the tree. Ready. Vale checked his equipment, then nodded. Ready, though I maintain that your leadership style is going to give me cardiac failure before this mission is complete. I'll try to keep the near-death experiences to a minimum. Somehow I doubt that. They moved northeast through the forest. The light was fading now, shadows growing longer. They'd need to make camp soon. Find defensible ground. Set up a watch rotation. But for now they walked. 4 Academy cadets on a Deathworld. Injured, exhausted, and very much alive. Behind them the stalkers clicked in the distance. Ahead something roared. Above the first stars were beginning to appear through gaps in the canopy. And Cade Harlow's squad leader, human survivor of Earth's Montana wilderness, and a dozen close calls before he'd even left his homeworld, smiled into the darkening forest and kept walking. The real test was just beginning. They found defensible ground an hour before full dark. A cluster of enormous trees whose root systems had grown together into tangled masses that created cave-like spaces underneath. Good visibility, multiple escape routes, elevated position. Cade walked the perimeter twice before he approved it. We set up here, he announced. Torvin, can you help move some of those fallen logs? Create a basic barricade on the south approach. Vale, gather dry wood for a fire. Liz, activate the water filtration unit and start processing water from that stream we passed. Vale's scales rippled. You want a fire on a Deathworld that will attract every predator within kilometers. It'll also keep some of them away. Most animals don't like fire. Plus, Cade glanced at Liz, who was shivering slightly despite the humidity. Some of us are cold-blooded, need warmth, or they'll go into torpor. Vale's mouth closed. After a moment, he nodded and began gathering wood. Torvin moved the logs with casual ease, his massive strength making child's play of barriers that would have required machinery for most species. But Cade could see the fluid leaking from his chest plate crack, see the way he moved more slowly than before. The marsh lurker's tail strike had done real damage. They'd need to address that, soon. But first, fire. Cade built it the same way he had 100 times before. Friction method. Bow drill his father had taught him. His hands moved through familiar motions, and within minutes the ember formed. He nursed it carefully into flame. Liz moved closer immediately, her bioluminescent patches shifting from stressed yellow to grateful pink as the warmth reached her. Vale stared at the fire. You created that with your hands, no technology. Humans have been doing it for 400,000 years. Cade fed the flames carefully. Fire's the reason we survived long enough to reach the stars. Torvin settled near the flames, his damaged chest plate toward the heat. Impressive, primitive, but effective. I'll take effective over sophisticated any day. Cade pulled out the protein synthesizer, began processing their rations. My dad used to say the best tech is the kind that works when everything else fails. They ate their first meal on Kelmar 3, huddled around that fire. Pressed rations that tasted like cardboard, but Cade supplemented his with the last of his jerky. Vale watched him chew. What is that? Teriyaki beef jerky. My mom made it before I left for academy. Preserved animal flesh. Vale looked mildly horrified. Protein. Want some? I am vegetarian. More for me then. Liz made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a sue. Are you okay? Kate asked gently. Her patches cycled through several colors before settling on honest blue. I am terrified. I have been terrified since we landed. I am from a garden world. The most dangerous thing there causes mild indigestion. And you, she gestured at Cade. You act like this is normal. Cade was quiet for a moment. I'm scared too, he said finally. Fear keeps you alert. It's only a problem when it stops you from moving forward. How do you manage it? My dad taught me to treat fear like information. It tells you something's dangerous. Okay, good to know. Now what are you going to do about it? Cade poked the fire. You can freeze up or you can keep going. I choose to keep going. Liz's patches glowed soft gold. We should establish watch rotation, Cade said. 4-hour shifts. Torvin first, then Liz Vale, and I'll take Dawn. Get some rest. They settled in. Cade found a spot near the camp edge and fell into light sleep. Cade woke to Liz's hand on his shoulder and pre-dawn gray filtering through the canopy. Your watch, she whispered. He sat up, checked on Torvin. The crack in the Krytoian's chest plate had spread overnight. The fluid leak had increased significantly. This was bad. When the others woke, Cade had water boiling and rations prepared. We've got a problem, he announced, gesturing to Torvin's chest. The damage was severe. Without proper repair, Torvin's internal systems would fail within 12 hours. I can continue, Torvin said, but his voice was weak. Vale spoke protocol. The injured party uses their emergency beacon. The rest continues the mission. No, Cade said flatly. This is not negotiable. I said no. Cade's voice was calm but absolute. Nobody gets left behind. That is suicide, Vale hissed. If we leave him, he dies alone because we cared more about grades than people. I'm not doing that. Liz's patches flickered uncertain orange. Without medical facilities. Who says we need medical facilities? Cade was examining the crack. This is a mechanical problem. I can fix it. You cannot repair Krytoian bioarmor with... Watch me. For the next 6 hours, Cade worked. He found granite-like stones, shaped them into plates, wove vines into support cords, used the blade to cut and refine. His hands bled. His shoulder wound reopened. His back screamed from hours hunched over. But he worked. Vale, after watching for 2 hours, began helping. Liz brought water. Torvin sat still, watching this human save his life with nothing but stone and plant fiber and determination. Why her? The Krytoian finally asked. I questioned you, called you primitive. Why did this? Cade didn't look up. Because being wrong isn't a reason to die. Because we're a team. By hour 6, the makeshift armor plate was secured to Torvin's chest. The leak stopped. Not completely, but enough. Torvin stood. Tested it. It holds. By the stone ancestors, it actually holds. Cade wiped sweat from his face. It'll get you through 60 more hours. After that, you need real repair. I am in your debt. You're my teammate. This is what teammates do. Torvin placed one massive hand on Cade's shoulder. Then I am honored to call you teammate Cade Harlow. Vale's scales had shifted to soft copper. I owe you an apology. I called your methods primitive. I was wrong. You were worried. That's different. They moved out at 1,300 hours an hour later than Cade had planned, but with all 4 members intact. The forest had changed, or maybe they had. They fell into rhythm, talked as they walked. Liz told them about her homeworld, Garden Paradise. She joined Academy against her family's wishes to prove Florians could be strong. Vale shared his story. Military family going back 12 generations. The pressure to match their legacy was crushing. Torvin spoke of his dying people. This mission was about proving they still had worth. And Cade told them about Montana, about his father's garage, about camping trips that were survival training, about deciding to show the Union that humans weren't monsters, just people who'd gotten tough to survive. You succeeded, Liz said softly. By Cade's calculation, they'd covered 25 kilometers that day. 60 total in less than 30 hours. They were way ahead of schedule. That night's camp was peaceful. Same routine. Fire, food, watch. During Vale's watch around 0300, his datapad chimed. Emergency beacon, another team, southwest, 15 kilometers away. Vale woke Cade. Team 5, beacon activated, extraction in progress. They'd failed. 36 hours in, Cade pulled up mission statistics. Of 10 teams, 3 had already failed. 2 more were behind schedule. Team 7 was the only team ahead of schedule. How? Vale breathed. We should be average at best. Cade thought about the fire built without technology, the water purified primitively, the shelter found by reading terrain, Torvin's repair with rocks and vines. Maybe that's exactly why we're winning, he said slowly. We're not relying on tools that can break. Dawn of day 3 brought a visitor, a small, hovering drone with Academy markings, observation equipment. It had been following them, recording. Cade looked directly at it. You getting all this? The drone adjusted position, continued recording. They broke camp and continued. The terrain changed, forest giving way to rolling hills, faster travel. By midday, 75 kilometers total, 5 to go. They could finish tonight, more than a day early. Then Cade's datapad chimed. Academy-wide broadcast. Commander Vraxis's face appeared. Attention all evaluation candidates. A Category 5 storm system has developed unexpectedly. Current projections indicate arrival within 10 hours. Wind speeds will exceed 300 kilometers per hour. Cade's stomach dropped. Standard protocol is immediate shelter. However, Vraxis paused. This storm is predicted to last 12 to 14 hours. All teams will miss extraction windows if they shelter. The message was clear. Shelter and fail, or move and risk death. Emergency beacons remain available. Extraction coordinates unchanged. Good luck. Transmission ended. Cade checked position. 43 kilometers to extraction, 10 hours available. 4.3 kilometers per hour through forest and hills with a boulder-throwing storm coming. Lys's patches went pure white terror. Torvin's chest creaked. This is impossible. Vale's scales darkened. Vraxis wants us to fail. Cade looked at the coordinates, at his team, at the horizon where clouds were already gathering. His father's voice, impossible, just means nobody's done it yet. We go through the storm, Cade said. That is suicide, Vale said flatly. Maybe, or maybe it's the only way. Cade adjusted his pack. I've hiked through Wyoming blizzards that killed people. Weather's just another challenge. Manageable if you're smart. Wyoming blizzards are not Category 5 storms. No, but the principle's the same. Read the weather, use it instead of fighting it. Cade looked at each of them. I can get us through, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Lys's patches flickered through 6 colors before settling on determined blue. I trust you. Torvin nodded. You earned my trust twice over. Vale was quiet. Then his scales shifted lighter. You kept us alive when others failed. So yes, I trust you, Cade. Good. Cade calculated route and timing. The storm's from the southwest. We're heading northeast. Wind will push us forward. We use that. Move fast before it hits. Once it arrives, travel between gusts. Stay low. Use terrain. What about Torvin? We carry him if needed. Nobody gets left behind. They shouldered packs, stood at the forest edge looking at dark clouds building like shadow mountains. Cade smiled at the storm. Let's go show them what humans do when the universe says impossible. They ran. The first raindrops hit like bullets. They'd covered 20 kilometers in 3 hours, running when they could, power walking when they couldn't. The storm was coming. Wind picked up, whisper to roar, 23 kilometers to extraction, 7 hours to deadline. Storm arriving in 12 minutes. They burst from forest into open grassland. Bad timing, rolling hills. No cover. Nothing between them and a Category 5 storm except determination. We can't stay here, Lys shouted, patches blazing orange-red. We're not staying, Cade shouted back. We're going through. They redistributed weight. Vale and Cade split Torvin's pack. Every advantage mattered. The sky went dark, storm dark, clouds strangling the sun. Lightning split the horizon. Thunder cracked like reality breaking. Here it comes. Cade dropped to crouch. Everyone down. Wait for the gust. The wind hit like a wall. Cade felt himself sliding backward, dug fingers into soil, held on. Torvin planted like a boulder, immovable. Lys wrapped around rock outcropping. Vale pressed flat scales flattened. The gust passed. 30 seconds, then brief calm. Move now, Cade was running. Next gust in 90 seconds, covered distance in his gap. They ran, the storm worked in waves. Massive gusts, brief calm. Cade timed them, used them, run 90 seconds, drop 30, run again. Brutal, terrifying, working, 2 kilometers in 30 minutes. Then the real rain started. Not drops, sheets, walls, water with enough force to bruise skin. Visibility dropped to nothing. Cade shielded his datapad. Navigation arrow barely visible. Northeast, always northeast. Follow me. Stay close. Lightning struck close. Maybe 100 meters. Thunder instantaneous. They kept moving. Hour 1 became 2. 2 became 3. Cade's legs burned. Lungs screamed. Azure's shoulder went numb. Lice fell. Cade was back to her instantly. I can't, she gasped. Too small, too weak. The wind's helping us, Cade shouted in her ear. Pushing northeast. We're using it. Lean into the gusts. I'm scared. Me too. But we're doing it anyway. Come on. He pulled her up, kept one hand on her arm, wouldn't let go. They ran together. Hour 4. Cade realized something remarkable. They were gaining ground. The storm supposed to kill them, they were using it. Wind pushing forward, rain hiding predators, lightning lighting their path. His father's voice. Nature isn't good or evil, it just is. Work with it, not against it. Cade was working with it, and it was working. Hour 5 brought new challenge. The ground disappeared beneath Liz. She dropped into darkness with a scream. Cade lunged, caught her wrist. His other hand found purchase, held on. I've got you, Torvin. Massive hands pulled her up. She emerged covered in insects, thousands of them. Small bodies, translucent wings, clicking mandibles. Underground nest, Cade realized with horror. The grassland collapsed, tunnels giving way, swarm emerging, tens of thousands of insects pouring out in a living wave. Run. The swarm came after them. Fast, faster than humans, flying through the storm. Cade felt them land on his back. Mandibles seeking purchase. He swatted, kept running. Veil was covered. Torvin crushed them by handfuls. Liz screamed. Not fear, something else. Primal, inhuman. Her bioluminescent patches blazed. Bright, blinding. The insects on her stopped moving. Just stopped. Then they glowed too, matching her frequency. Liz screamed again. Her patches pulsed in complex patterns. Communication. Language. The swarm stopped pursuing. They began moving in formation. Responding to Liz's light like iron filings to magnet. She raised one hand. The swarm parted. Created a corridor. Follow me, she whispered, but her voice carried command. They walked through the swarm, thousands of insects hovering in perfect synchronization, creating a tunnel of safety. When they emerged, Liz collapsed. Cade caught her. What was that? Vale stared with religious awe. I don't know, Liz gasped. I felt them in my mind. I just knew I could control them. Torvin's voice was reverent. Florian insect symbiosis. I read about it. The text said the ability was lost thousands of years ago. Not lost, Cade said gently. You okay? Exhausted, but okay. She looked at her hands. I never knew I could do that. You're not weak. You never were. Liz's patches shifted to gold. We should keep moving. They moved. The storm was breaking, wind decreasing, rain shifting to merely heavy. Cade checked his datapad, 10 kilometers to extraction, 3 hours to deadline. They were going to make it. Pick up the pace. We're almost home. They crossed the final 10 kilometers in 2 hours and 20 minutes. Fatigue became distant. Pain became information. They ran on adrenaline and determination. The extraction point appeared. Raised platform, scanning equipment, Union technology looking almost alien after 3 days in wilderness. Beautiful. They stumbled onto the platform together. Exhausted, injured, covered in mud and blood, alive. Scanners activated. Blue light swept over them. Team 7 confirmed, synthesized voice announced. Survival time 71 hours and 34 minutes. Congratulations, extraction shuttle dispatched. Estimated arrival 10 minutes. Cade collapsed. Just sat down, legs giving out. Liz sat next to him, patches soft blue, peaceful. Torvin lowered himself carefully. Vale stood a moment longer, then sat. Shales warm copper. Silence. Just breathing. Just being alive. We did it, Liz whispered. Yeah, Cade said. I doubted you, Vale said quietly. I thought your inexperience would doom us. I was profoundly wrong. You led us to victory. We led us, all of us. This was teamwork. You are being modest. I'm being honest. Squad leader means I had the privilege of working with people who refused to quit. Cade looked at each of them. Best team I could have asked for. Torvin rumbled with emotion. You saved my life when protocol said to leave me. You preserved my honor. My people will know a human showed me compassion. You deserved it. You're my friend. The word hung. Friend, not just cadet, friend. Liz took Cade's hand. I was certain I would fail. You showed me I was wrong. You believed I could do it, so I believed too. You always had the strength. The shuttle appeared, descending like mechanical salvation. Medical personnel rushed out. We're fine, Cade started. This shoulder wound has reopened multiple times, a medic said, examining him. Check Torvin first. The medic saw the makeshift armor. Her eyes widened. Did you repair this yourself? He did, Torvin said, with stone and plant fiber. 6 hours. It saved my life. The medic stared at Cade. You're the human, the squad leader. Yeah. You're also the first team to reach extraction, by more than 12 hours. Silence. The first Lys's patches flicker and, by a lot, 3 teams activated beacons first day, 2 more during the storm, 1 missed deadline but made secondary extraction, 1 projected to arrive on time. And you, 71 hours, 83 kilometers, 0 casualties, 0 beacon activation. She shook her head. That's not just passing. That's breaking the record. They loaded into the shuttle, scanners cataloging injuries, nothing critical, everything survivable. As Kelmar 3 fell away, Cade felt completion, like proving something that needed proving. The shuttle docked. Commander Vraxis met them. All 7 eye stalks focused on Team 7. You are the first team to return. Record time. Impressive. Something complicated in his voice. Though you sustained injuries, this will be reflected. Cade straightened. With respect, Commander, we survived 71 hours and reached extraction 12 hours ahead of anyone. A few injuries seem reasonable. Vraxis's eye stalks swiveled, studied Cade. Indeed. Dismissed to medical. Debriefing tomorrow 0900. Well done, cadets. Medical was efficient. Regeneration therapy, proper biomechanical repair, nutritional supplements, pain management. Sore for weeks, but passed. Later in the common area, Cade pulled up final statistics. 10 teams, 40 cadets, 3 failures, 2 missed deadline but survived, 4 arrived within window, 1 team, Team 7, arrived 12 hours early. Farther faster than any team in Academy history. 0 casualties. Everyone survived. They found Team 3, Vale said. The abandoned camp, extracted 6 hours after us. Severe injuries, but alive. Relief washed through Cade. Everyone made it. Next morning, 0900 sharp, Team 7 stood in Vraxis's office. The commander reviewed performance data on multiple screens. Your performance was exceptional, he said. 83 kilometers in 71 hours. Multiple hostile encounters survived. Improvised solutions to equipment failure. Team cohesion despite initial conflict. 1 eye stalk focused on Cade. The human demonstrated leadership exceeding expectations for first-generation spacefaring species. Bio-armor repair showed ingenuity. Storm navigation showed either exceptional skill or exceptional stupidity. Exceptional skill, sir, Cade said, with small amount of exceptional stupidity for seasoning. Vraxis's tentacles rippled. Might have been amusement. You are aware your performance created complications. Sir, humans were admitted on trial basis. Significant opposition argued Class 7 inhabitants would be too primitive, violent, unstable. Vraxis's voice shifted. You disproved those assumptions thoroughly. Team 7 exceeds cadets from species with thousands of years of spacefaring history. This creates precedent, demands explanation. Cade waited. Union Council requested full analysis of human capabilities. Your evaluation will be studied. Your methods will become training material. Your species' admission will expand significantly. Vraxis leaned forward. You have changed things, Cadet Harlow. I just did what my father taught me, sir. Survive. Help my team. Don't quit. Simple philosophy. Effective results. Vraxis tapped his datapad. Team 7 awarded Distinction of Excellence, highest honors, graduate with commendation. Additionally offered positions in advanced training, specialized units operating in high-risk environments. He pulled up classified document. Vanguard Protocol. Survey teams exploring Class 4 and higher worlds. We need operatives who function in lethal environments without extensive technology. Who adapt, improvise, survive. All 7 eye stalks on Cade. We need humans and leaders they trust. Interested? Cade looked at his team. If my team stays together, yes, sir. All of us or none. Vraxis's tentacles curled. I would expect nothing less. 1 week to decide. Dismissed. They walked out together. Vanguard Protocol, Vale said. Class 4 and higher, significantly more dangerous. Yep, we could die, maybe, but together, as a team. Liss's patches glowed determined blue. I spent my life being afraid. These 3 days taught me safety isn't living. I choose living. Torvin rumbled. My people are dying slowly. If I must die, let it be quickly doing something that matters, with friends. Vale's scales shifted copper. My family expects tradition, but I prefer to create my own legacy. With this team, with friends. They reached the common area, display screen showing final statistics. Team 7 at the top. Other cadets stared as they passed, whispers. That's them, the humans team, the record breakers. Cade pulled his team to quiet corner. What we did wasn't just passing a test. We proved something. About all of us. About what's possible when you focus on what makes you strong together. He looked at each of them. Lys, you commanded thousands. Torvin, you saved lives while dying. Vale, you learned humility. Cade smiled. And me, I learned being from a death world doesn't make you better, just adapted differently. We all bring something unique. Together, we're unstoppable. Lys's patches glowed gold. What happens now? Now we rest, heal, decide about Vanguard, then show the universe what Team 7 can do. 3 days later, graduation ceremony, full assembly, 200 graduates, families via hologram, union officials observing, Commander Vraxis at podium. You entered as individuals from across the Union, different species, different worlds. You leave as graduates, as officers, as defenders. He paused. This cohort faced the most challenging evaluation in history. Kelmar 3 exceeded normal parameters. 10 teams entered, 10 survived, but one exceeded all projections. One will reshape our protocols. Eye stalks focused on Team 7. Team 7 front and center. They walked to stage. Cade in dress uniform, Lys with proud blue patches, Torvin's chest gleaming, Vale's scales polished. Cadet Harlow, Vraxis said formally, first human squad leader. Exceeded every expectation, demonstrated tactical flexibility, technical ingenuity, leadership that inspired record performance. He presented the distinction of excellence. Heavy metal, real. Cadet Lys overcame limitations to discover capabilities your people believed lost. Fauna control prevented casualties, demonstrated impossible potential. Lys received hers with trembling hands, patches cycling through every color. Cadet Torvin continued despite critical failure, showed resilience honoring your warrior tradition. Torvin held his medal like it was fragile. Cadet Vale overcame prejudice and pride. Your growth represents the best of academy training. Vale's scales flushed copper. He looked at Cade. Mouthed, thank you. Vraxis addressed the assembly. These 4 proved something essential. Survival is not about superior technology, not ancient civilizations, not species hierarchy. Survival is adaptation, cooperation, determination. These are human traits, yes, but universal traits. Traits any species can develop. He gestured to screens. Video from Kelmar 3. Cade building fire. Torvin's repair. Lys commanding swarm, running through storm. This is the future, not species competing, species cooperating, learning from each other, becoming stronger together. As Vraxis spoke, the screen shifted, showed something new. Future scenes. Flash forwards woven into his speech. A lecture hall, instructor teaching. Today we discuss the Harlow Protocol, named after Lieutenant Cade Harlow, who revolutionized survival doctrine. New cadets taking notes, learning friction fire, studying improvisation. Young human cadet, nervous asking instructor, I'm scared I won't measure up, that I'm too primitive. Instructor's compound eyes kind. Lieutenant Harlow said, we're not smarter or stronger or more advanced. We're just survivors from a planet that made us unbreakable. And maybe that's exactly what the universe needs. The cadets standing straighter, fire in their eyes, back to ceremony. Vraxis concluding, and that future begins today. With these 4 cadets, with the Harlow Protocol now taught across the Union, with humanity's full integration into our defense forces. The assembly erupted in applause. Cade stood there, medal in hand, team beside him, feeling his father's presence. Every camping trip, every survival lesson, all of it mattered. Dad would be proud. After ceremony, Cade found quiet spot, pulled up calm, sent message to Earth. Dad, I graduated, top honors, led my team through a death world using everything you taught me. Fire building, terrain, reading weather navigation. All of it saved lives. Thank you for being stubborn about the old ways. Thank you for preparing me for challenges you couldn't imagine. I love you. I'll call when I can. Your son, Cade. Sent. Queued for Earthbound packet. Liz found him. Sat without speaking. I contacted my family, she said quietly. Told them what happened. What I discovered. My mother cried. Said she was wrong to doubt me. That she's proud. Pink patches. I never thought I'd hear that. You earned it. We earned it, together. Torvin and Vale joined them, four sitting in comfortable silence, watching stars through viewport. So, Vale said, Vanguard Protocol. Are we doing this? Cade looked at his team. His friends. I'm in if you're in. I'm in, Liz said. As am I, Torvin rumbled. Vale's scales determined copper. Then we are unanimous. Team 7 continues. They sat as the station orbited Earth, blue and green planet rotating slowly. Somewhere down there, his father would receive the message, would smile, would tell his mother our boy did good. And somewhere in the future, Team 7 would face new challenges. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, they were graduates, friends, alive, and they had proven something essential. 1 year later, deep space planet designated Havoc Prime, Class 6 Deathworld, acid rain, predators hunting in hundreds. Lieutenant Cade Harlow stood with his team at the drop point, older now, battle-worn, but together. Okay, he said, checking equipment. Looks rough, but we've handled worse. Remember Kelmar 3, Liss's bioluminescence flared confident blue. When you called it spring break, yes. I remember. Torvin checked his armor, properly maintained now. Professional grade. I remember you spent 6 hours repairing my chest with rocks. This will be easier. Vale's scales glowed warm copper. I remember doubting you. I will not make that mistake again. Good. Cade shouldered his pack, found his lucky club, same stick from Kelmar 3 preserved through a dozen missions. Then let's show this planet what Team 7 does when the universe says impossible. They walked into the acid rain together, 4 beings from 4 different worlds, united by trust, by friendship, by absolute certainty that together they were unstoppable. Behind them, the universe watched, learned, adapted, and understood. Humanity had joined the stars not by being the strongest, not by being the smartest, but by being the survivors. And in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations and advanced technologies and species who had forgotten what it meant to struggle, that made all the difference.